Thank you so much for attending. This session is called Seven Habits for Highly Unemployed People and Others. Yes, it's open to others as well, but it's really meant for people who have found themselves in the predicament of being unemployed. And I say predicament because I'm going to presume that this is involuntary on your part and that you are seeking employment. Um, so I'm just going to give you some quick admin notes, and then I'm going to launch right into it. My name is Eric Teplitz. I am a life coach. I am a life coach who is dedicated to living with passion and authenticity and helping others do the same. I work with people and help them really clarify what is most important to them and then help them figure out ways to live in greater and greater alignment with those ideals. As I mentioned, this session, if you want to make sure you're at the right one, it's called Seven Habits for Highly Unemployed People and Others. It is based on an article that I've published on Medium, and I put a link to that article in the chat. This session, I don't want to just simply regurgitate what's in the article, so I do encourage you to read it at your own leisure as a supplement to this talk, but I'm not going to just simply repeat everything that's in the article. I want to have a conversation with you guys, so I'm going to make a few really key points about the struggle of being unemployed and how you can turn it into something positive and seize it as an opportunity for self-care. You really kind of have to, because it can be a maddening experience. I know, I've been there. And then what I'm going to do is, when I'm done, I'm going to open it up to questions. So hopefully you know how to submit questions. There is a Q&A tab, and I believe that there's a blue button that says ask a question, and that's how you submit the question. So I'm going to just make sure that this is announced. Okay, so I'm not going to look at that until I'm done. And then when I'm done talking, I will get to as many questions as I possibly can. Okay. All right. Without further ado, what this talk is not about. This talk is not about how to land yourself an amazing job. That is not what this is about. What this is about is surviving and even thriving during what can be a grueling, brutal, confidence-shattering experience of being unemployed. I experienced this myself back in 2014. I talk about this in the article. I went through a 9.5 month long period of unemployment. I did not expect it would take anywhere near that long. I basically depleted all of my savings in that time. But fortunately for me, fairly early on, I intuited that there was an opportunity built into being unemployed. And it's kind of an obvious one. You may have heard the expression, time wants money, money wants time. Well, when you are employed with a full-time job, free time is scarce. You've got the money coming in, you're maybe relaxed about that, but it's the lack of time that is the really felt scarce resource. When you're unemployed, it's the opposite. You may be stressed about money, but you have this incredible, wonderful gift of free time. Now, for some people, having unstructured free time is a nightmare. They don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do with it. They just become totally anxious. And I totally understand that. And what I want to do is encourage you to view this as a tremendous gift. It's a tremendous opportunity, number one, if nothing else, to attend to yourself, to take care of yourself in ways that having a full-time job often just simply does not allow for. So what I did when I was unemployed is I knew that it was temporary. I knew eventually I would find a job. And I wanted to make sure that I did everything in my power so that I would feel really good about how I put that time to use, however long it was going to last. And as I mentioned, I had no idea how long it was going to last. So my goal for this talk is to just leave you feeling a bit more optimistic and even maybe excited about the opportunity to take what could be potentially a really, really dark season of your life and turn it into something really positive with ongoing positive ripple effects. Okay. So I want to just pose this question for you to think about as you're listening to me speak. And that question is this: what does not having a full time job right now, if you're in that position, what does that allow you to do or explore or try or make time for? And not just anything, but something that would be meaningful to you, that would be really meaningful because you're given this gift. You don't know how long you're going to have it for, of abundant free time. So I want you to really think about that. Now, these 7 habits are things that I did with my time while I was unemployed. And the reason that I call them 7 habits for highly unemployed people, why they're sort of especially good for unemployed people, is because they cost little to nothing. So you don't have to worry so much about money, and you're just seizing this opportunity that you have with your abundant free time. That said, take what's useful for you. Some of these things are going to be painfully obvious, or you're going to say, yeah, I already do that. That's fine. I want you to just be like an open, receptive vessel when I mention each of these. And I'm just going to think of them as like seeds that I'm planting, and just see if any of them resonate with you. See if any of them make you go, you know what? That's a great thing that I can do in addition to just applying for jobs and stressing about it and waiting to hear back and all of the stuff that goes with I trust you're already doing all of that stuff. But if you do that all day long, or if you ruminate all day long, you're just going to drive yourself nuts. It's not a good system, especially when it's such an uncertain thing and you don't know how long it'll take. Okay, is this resonating with people so far? I'm just put a note in the chat just so that I know that that this is landing or not. Hopefully it is. I'm going to again mention the 7 habits that I employed, and just take a listen. I'm going to just mention them briefly. In the article, I go much deeper with each one. But the first habit is meditation. Now, here's the big overview picture. I know everyone always tells you meditate. And maybe you've tried it before, and maybe you have had success with it. Maybe you haven't. And by success, I just mean you've benefited from it. There's no right way to do it. But the sort of big picture overview of why meditation is a great idea when you're unemployed, even if you just do this for, say, 5 minutes a day, is because we live in a culture of nonstop 24/7 noise, stimulation, distractions, calls for our attention. And it's we don't even get to we don't even know how we feel, right? We don't even get to like process because we're just constantly stimulated. And we also live in a culture that is just go, 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 do, 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 and just values, activity above all else. So meditation is a deliberate um, sort of antidote to that. Meditation is an opportunity for you to stop doing and just be for a period of time, to just be still and to just tune into yourself as opposed to tuning into everything, all the noise around you. And you don't know what's going to come up. But one of the great opportunities that meditation affords you, in addition to tuning into your own self and your own wisdom, is it helps you to disidentify with the noise in your head, with the nonstop chattering monkey mind, as it's called, the endless stories that you tell yourself. Meditation creates an opening where you can distance yourself, even just momentarily, from those stories and realize that you are not those stories. This may sound simple, and I guess it is simple, but it's profound, because if you don't identify with your anxiety, rather than say, I am anxious. No, no, no. You're experiencing anxiety. This is anxiety. Yeah, got it. And guess what? It'll disappear like everything else. So meditation, that's habit number 1. Oh, one last thing is that I highly recommend, if you've never done it before, even if you have, I highly recommend using guided audios when you meditate. It's extremely helpful in terms of instruction and just kind of keeping you on track and literally being guided through. And there are a lot of great teachers. There's endless amounts of recorded material that you can find. If you want a personal recommendation, go to my website, which I linked to above in the chat, and send me a quick message on my contact form, and I'll send you some recommendations of which ones I used and found really helpful. But the key thing is you want to make sure that it's a teacher that resonates with you. And one of the most important factors there is the person's voice. Because if you find their voice grating or irritating or annoying, probably not going to work for you. So try to find someone, experiment, play with different ones, try out different ones. And by the way, there's so many different ways to meditate. So, um, but it's, even if you devote 5 minutes of your day to that non-activity, that non-doing, it can have a profound ripple effect into the rest of your day. All right, habit number 2, for people here at Medium Day, this is going to be a no-brainer. But habit number 2 is reading. And again, I want to emphasize long form reading. This should be antithetical to what we experience every day, for instance, on social media. Social media is the opposite of what I'm calling long form reading. Social media is memes that basically go in one ear and out the other, and you read that and you go, haha, or that's cute, or that's interesting. And then it's forgotten a moment later because you're just scrolling. But long form reading is, I probably don't have to sell you on this. Long form reading is an opportunity to be with someone who has devoted years of their life to either crafting a story or researching a topic and articulating it in the best, most coherent way they possibly can. It's like the ultimate contained form of creativity, of a human labor that is just handed to you, and you can sit and spend time with this author, living or dead. It's a great way to also build your focus muscle and your concentration and attention, which gets hijacked incessantly all day long. So it has that in common with meditation. Long form reading, that's number 2. Habit number 3 is something I call creative play. Now, this is really fascinating to me because if you were to think about when you were a kid, or if you have kids yourself, think about the way a kid would respond to being told, hey, the next hour is total free time. You can do whatever you want. Like, for a kid, that's a dream. And what do kids do if they're given a container of free time where they don't have to do anything? Or, what do? They play. They play. It comes so naturally. It's just a given. It's obvious. They don't have to think about it. And yet, as adults, we deny ourselves play. It's incredible. And so the hardest part of playing as an adult, I think, in my personal opinion and experience, is just giving yourself permission to do it. And it sounds so obvious and simple, and it only takes a moment. And yet we deprive ourselves. And especially when we're unemployed, I think we feel guilty for any time spent not aggressively job searching. You can't do that all day. You just can't. We're not built for that. And it's not even possible. There's only so many jobs. There's only so many applications you can, submit. So for your own good, play. And let me explain what I did, because it was really profound. For me, probably the biggest regret that I had in my life at that time was in sort of my younger years. I was very, very serious about music, and I pursued it as a career. And I loved music, and I loved playing and writing and performing. But I had not written a song in, I don't know, it was some crazy amount of time, like 18 years or something like that. I had not given myself permission to play because I had put too much pressure on myself. If I was going to write a song, it had to be great. Well, that's an immediate way to kill the impulse to play. So I just made this agreement with myself. I'm going to linger on this particular topic because I think it's important. But I made this agreement with myself that I would show up with my guitar and a notebook for a designated amount of time each day and just see what happens, and not be attached at all to the results, but to just allow myself, to just give myself permission to play around. That was it. And the win was showing up. It didn't matter if nothing came of it. It didn't matter. But I was very curious to just see if I would just surrender to process and give myself that permission that it took me 18 years to give myself, to see what would happen. And some days nothing really came of it, but Eventually, if you show up enough times, the muse realizes that, okay, you're serious, and you will get a spark of some inspiration at some point. And that's what happened eventually. And I did write some songs that I'm really, really proud of. And those songs would never have been written or seen the light of day had it not for my being unemployed. How about that? All right. So creative play. Again, don't punish yourself so much. Instead, let yourself play. You're going to be in a much better space during a job interview if you've given yourself this gift. Trust me. Speaking of that, habit number 4, exercise. I know you didn't want to hear this one. Exercise is great. If you don't like exercise, it's probably because you haven't found uh, a way of doing it that you happen to love. It doesn't have to be anything serious. It could be just dancing. Dancing is exercise, moving your body. Exercise is the greatest for me. I personally don't like going to a gym. That is like I've just ugh. I like to get all my exercise outside. So just being outside, even just going for a walk. I have an article on Medium you can find under my profile. It's called "The Most Effective Antidepressant," and it's my sort of ode and homage to hiking, which has been the single greatest thing I've done for my health throughout my life, and it's reaped me rewards I cannot even begin to describe to you. Just hiking, just moving my body in nature. So exercise, in addition to being healthy and good for you, it makes you more optimistic. Endorphins are real things. And when you are more optimistic and when you feel better, you're going to take more productive action. It's just all around good. Can't emphasize it enough. Exercise. Habit number 5, journaling. This is another huge one. Journaling is all it is literally writing your ideas down on paper. Some people prefer to do it on a keyboard on a computer, but I prefer by hand in a notebook. And the only thing that's it. That's what journaling is. And it's meant as a private container for your own thoughts, musings, ramblings, anything, bitching, anything you want. um, and it's a way where you can check in with yourself on a regular basis. Let's say you do it in the morning, each morning, you spend some time journaling. It is the greatest gesture, I think, of self-respect that you take the time, however much time it is, out of your day and say, you know what, my thoughts matter. Like how I feel about things actually matters. So I see it as an enormous gesture of self-respect, and it's an opportunity to check in with yourself, to like say, hey, how are you doing? How am I feeling? And what matters to me right now? What's really important? What do I need? You can also brainstorm ideas that otherwise probably wouldn't have occurred to you. And if you don't already know this from experience, just the simple act of writing things down is really sort of the first step in making them happen in your life, or potentially making them happen. I don't mean it in a superstitious way that whatever you write down will be. I don't mean it that way. I just mean that it's the first step when it takes an idea out of the sky, you know, and where it's just sort of amorphous and floating, and you're grounding it onto the page. So you're solidifying it. It becomes more real when you've written it down. And then it becomes more of a possibility that you might actually take action in the direction of. And guess what? That can change your life. I can't even tell you how many times that has happened to me. Habit number 6 that I employed, again, for you medium people, you'll probably appreciate this one. I call it writing and publishing. So this is to distinguish it from journaling. Remember, journaling is writing just for your eyes only, just for your use. You don't have, it doesn't matter spelling, grammar, none of it. Coherency, none of it doesn't matter. It's just for you. But writing with the intent of publishing it somewhere it forces you to really get clear and crystallize your thoughts. You might only have it's a great way to work things out, quite honestly. If there's something you're struggling with, start writing about it. And your ideas, because you have to choose every word and say, is that what I meant? No, 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 no. Actually, there's a better word for that. It just helps you really, really crystallize and clarify your thinking. Can't recommend it enough. And when you know other people are going to be reading it, you know, there's a different standard that you have than when you're just writing in your journal. You want to try to communicate something not only as clearly and interestingly as you can, but you want to share it with other people who may benefit from it, because I can pretty much guarantee you, if you're having some kind of experience, however negative you might think it is, someone out there can relate and would probably appreciate knowing they're not alone. So that's number 6. And then finally, habit number 7 is decluttering. Decluttering. This has a lot of practical uses. First of all, who has the time for this when you're working? No one. You're not going to, I mean, you're going to give up your weekend, your precious weekend to like clean up the house? Probably not. But decluttering is can be a really profound um, uh, action, because you're making conscious decisions about the environment you live in, and you're stripping things away, and you're saying, I don't need this. I can get rid of this. And you might uncover things and find long lost things. And also, you might decide, you know what, I can sell a whole bunch of stuff. And when you need money and you're unemployed, that's really helpful. So decluttering, you can think of it as an activity in the physical world that metaphorically helps you clear out your mind and your own priorities. And by changing your external environment, the one that you're spending a lot of time in, presumably, that is undoubtedly going to have an effect on your internal environment as well. So those are my 7 habits for highly unemployed people and others, because anyone can benefit from doing these things. It's just that when you're unemployed, you have an unusual amount of time that allows you to do one or more of these things. Now, one last thing I want to say about these habits is that I benefited from each one of them individually, like no question. But what was really interesting was the fact that these things were synergistic. In other words, they were even more powerful in combination. So, for example, I would be out exercising one morning, let's say, and an idea would pop into my head for an article I could write. And if I hadn't been exercising, I probably wouldn't have had that idea. And because both of those habits were sort of on my calendar for the day, I tried to do as many of these each day as I could. And I had a tracking system for monitoring what I was doing and how I was making use of my time, which I recommend, by the way. Um, so, exercise, boom, idea for an article, write it, boom, publish it. I did a meditation one day that was really, really profound and heart opening. It's called Loving Kindness. If you're not familiar with it, I wrote a whole piece about that on Medium called My Wish for You. Profound. And it just can really help open up your heart in a big way. I was crying. I was a mess in a good way after this meditation. And I went right to my guitar and outpoured this amazing song. So this is an example, again, how these habits, even they're individually really powerful, but in combination, they can work together in really interesting and powerful ways. So just to close this out and leave some time for questions, I just wanted to let you know, I did eventually get a job after 9.5 months. It was only a temp job, and I still had a hell of a time getting hired on by the company that I was temping at. But here's the thing. Once I started working full time, guess what? Those habits, those wonderful 7 habits that were synergistically improving my life in profound ways, most of them honestly fell by the wayside because I simply didn't have the time and energy for them. So I say that to just emphasize the poignancy of this gift that you have when you're unemployed, of lots and lots of unstructured time where your energy is freed up to do things that actually matter to you. Now, hopefully you're going to find work that matters to you. But let's face it, for a lot of people, that's not the case. Not in terms of not finding it, but most people's jobs are not what fill them. If you're in a situation where you have a job that fills you, more power to you. I think that's wonderful. But we all need to work. We all need to make a living somehow, and we can't necessarily be that lucky to have a job like that. And that's why it's really, 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 really important to insist on time for yourself, taking care of yourself and nourishing yourself. So again, I just want to leave you with this journaling prompt. Use it as a journaling prompt. What does not having a full-time job right now, if you're in that situation, what are the opportunities built into that? What does that allow you to do or try or explore or make time for that just might be really, really meaningful to you? Um, I wish you all good luck if you're job searching. And I want to offer anyone here listening today a free coaching call. You can go to my website and sign up for one. Just go to the coaching tab and my calendar will pop up and you can schedule a time. It's totally free, no obligation. My goal is to just try to use that time to help you move the needle in some hopefully really powerful and profound way. So that's my invitation to you. And I'm going to look at the Q&A and see what we've got in here. Okay. Which monitoring system did I use to manage slash track my day? That's a great question. I didn't use a monitoring system, at least not any app or anything. I created my own and I did it. It was really, really simple. I think that if you're going to use a system of any kind for tracking, it has to be user friendly and it has to be the simpler, the better, because you want to actually use it. If it's too much work, you're not going to use it. So all I did was I created a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet, I had each of the 7 habits listed as columns. So, those were the columns. And then um, I just put the date every consecutive day. And then for each day, I had a way of notating what did I do? What did I do that day? Like sometimes it would just be a yes or no, like a check a box kind of thing. Did I journal? Yes. Did I exercise? I came up with my own abbreviations. Like a B would be a bike ride, B colon 16, bike to 16 miles, whatever it was. But it was a way of tracking so that this just didn't disappear. Like I could point to what I did with my time, which helped me really feel like I was making good use of it. Also, what's really helpful is the monitoring aspect, because I would notice that there would be some habits, decluttering, I'm looking at you, that I would like really procrastinate on, really like lapse on. And you can just see it at a glance, which ones you're being consistent with and which ones you're not. And that can be really informative. So that was the monitoring system and tracking system that I used. It looks like that's the only question in here. So once again, my name is Eric Teplitz. I hope you found this session helpful. I actually am doing 3 more sessions today. So if you search for me in the schedule, you will find I'm doing like, let's see, if this is Eastern time, then this is 6 o'clock right now, just about. So I'm doing one at 6:30, 7:30, and then 8:30. If you'd like to check those out. I really, really appreciate your time, and I really know how absolutely just demoralizing it can be to be unemployed involuntarily. So I just want you to know you're not alone. You'll get through it. And I don't want you to just get through it, but I want you to actually make really, really good use of it and take especially good care of yourself. It's always important to do that, but especially now. So if you have any questions for me, again, you can feel free to reach out to me via my website, ericteplitz.com. And at the top of this chat is a link to the article that I wrote on the 7 habits for highly unemployed people. Thank you so much. I'm just going to do one last check for any questions. Let's see. Okay. I think there are a couple here that I missed. I know we only have a minute or 2 left. Imagine you have a 2-month baby and unemployed. How would you use your free time? I don't have in a minute. I can't answer that question. I am not a parent. That is a major challenge. Obviously, I would try to get as much support as I could. And also, I would use the time to bond with my baby. If I have all of this time on my hands, I would make that would probably be the best use of it. The most important thing to me. Let's see. The 7 habits, someone asked if I could list them. They're in the article. How about doing what you're doing right now as your main work? And using your need for income to motivate your becoming successful? Sure. Absolutely. There's no one right way to be unemployed. Be as creative as you can and take a full advantage of it in any way that you can. So we're out of time. Again, I hope to see some of you maybe in one of the other sessions today. And really take me up on my coaching call. It can't hurt any, and I would love to try to help you out if I can. All right. Thank you all, and good luck. Take good care.